Hello and welcome to this week's Celluloid Codswallop. And on this week's episode, I have someone who has many, many hats. They wear many, many hats. Not just, we're not talking just, directing. We're not talking just, producing. We're talking cinematography, many other talents. But I'm probably ruining it because I'm giving a bit too much information away already. I have the one and only Bryan Parkerson on as my guest today. Bryan, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I am doing very well. I am happier than I was early because I'm getting to talk to you, sir, and learn all about you and what you do. So,
I turned a little bit red. That's so flattering. I appreciate that.
Hey, no, dude. What I will say is, you give me the other thing is, dude, serious beard envy. That is a proper. My beard is like next to nothing. That, for those who are only hearing this as audio, Bryan has a proper, manly, impressive beard. It's proper lumberjack style. I'm impressed, very impressed. If only I could grow a beard as good as that.
You know what's funny is this actually. I had it down to my chest about 6 weeks ago, and I trimmed it. I tried to trim it, and it just something went. What I was afraid of, something went wrong, and it looked awful. It was just so bad, and I had to just take it back down to a quarter inch or something. Mm-hmm. And man, it was heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking. So this is actually in the growth process. I actually have a picture. I was so proud of that beard. I'd always wanted to grow like a biker beard, and I did. And let me tell you something though, man. What you never anticipate about it is all the food that you get in it. You can't eat anything. Like popcorn, soup is the worst. Like soup or cereal, you're wearing it. But there's something about getting a beard that length. You have to wear it. And those is kind of cropped, but you can kind of see.
Oh, dude, yes.
It was really down there.
That is something to behold. That's like you're into like ZZ Top territory. I am liking that. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
One day I will have to at one point. I mean, the longest I've had it is probably about like sort of there, but it's and then
you just got to do it, man.
Yeah.
Now's the time. Just decide today. Yeah. Just like today, I'm stopping shaving, and you got to, it's tough because you go through kind of this in between period where it's trying to decide to be long, but it still wants to be short. Mm-hmm. And you almost want to believe that it's a sentient thing on your face and it just looks bad. And you just have to look bad for a while. And that's the price you pay for a good beard, man. Like I joke a lot about it. I tell people the one thing I'm arrogant about is my beard, and I'm not arrogant about it, but I get an unusual amount of compliments on my beard. And in the most strange places, I've had more of a missionary compliment my beard on my front porch. I've been in I have no joke been in the ER laying in a bed there for cardiac stuff. Whoa. Nurses like, you have a really nice beard. I'm like, well, thank you. I was at the eye doctor in October, and literally one of the employees so it was one of those, they had the eye testing center, and then they had the store where you could buy the glasses. One of the employees came from the eye testing center all the way into the store because I went out to my car to get my old glasses, came back. She'd come from the other side of the store just to say something about my beard.
Yeah.
It's just like, so I joke with people that I'm arrogant about it, but I'm really not. But it's cool. I mean, it's really neat to hear that people like it. So I appreciate you making mention of it.
That's okay. I'll just say for our salty tadpoles, which is the nickname for our listeners, you never thought you'd be listening to stuff talk about beards, did you? So yeah, for people who don't get it, beards are really cool. They're great, and run with it. If you can grow a beard, do it. So yeah. We've got off topic, but I've loved it because we've had a brilliant discussion in opener. So, Bryan, I want to know more about you. Tell us about yourself. Give us your backstory, because you're originally Nashville?
I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, yeah.
Tell us I want to know the background. I want to know what is the Bryan Parkerson story.
Wow, man, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 90s. Which was a fantastic time to grow up. Playing outside, had, toy commercials on TV, Saturday morning cartoons. 90s was a great time. And now that I'm getting so much closer to 40, I've kind of hit that nostalgia phase, and I'm really pining to go back to the 1990s. But we can't.
I'm already there. I hit 40 this year.
It's weird, man. Like you tell people that are past 40 that's like, oh, I'm close to 40, like, who gives a crap, and it's like, you don't understand that this has always been 15 years away, 20 years away, 30 years away. Now it's 3 years away. And it's like, wow, where's the time? I was just in high school yesterday, and now like.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's weird because in my head, I'm still in my 20s or younger. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did this happen?
But your body tells you you're in your 40s or your late 30s. That's what happens.
Yes.
Up here, you're like, I'm still 20. Yeah. But your body's like, no, sir. You're 36, buddy. I'm going to remind you. So it's, yeah, man. So I'm a 90s kid. I grew up. I'm a really big fan of horror. I saw, and bless my mother. I love my mom so much. She, I joke with her. I'm like, I can't believe you let me watch these movies when I was a kid. I don't know, but it's a part of who I am today for the better. And I love my mom so much for it. I have vague memories of watching The Lost Boys back in the 80s. I have vague memories of The Howling back in the 80s. But the one movie that really sticks out to me, like if somebody said, like, what's the first horror film you've seen? Mm-hmm. This is the first one, but it's the first one I really remember seeing. It was Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 version. Mm-hmm. And that had a lifelong impact on me. I fell in love with the zombie genre. I fell in love with horror movies from that point on. And then I remember in like 91 or 92, I got to see the 1990 version that Tom Savini did. Yeah. And that further cemented my love for horror films. And what's funny is, through the years, I mean, I loved zombie movies, but I didn't really know who George Romero was. I didn't really know who Tom Savini was. I didn't really know anything about that kind of, I'm going to call it the zombie mafia because, if you look at it, like everything in the zombie universe is tied to George Romero and this family that he built. Greg Nicotero was trained under Tom Savini, and now KMBFX does The Walking Dead. So like everything really kind of goes back to Romero in a lot of ways. But when I was a young man of 12, I discovered that Dawn of the Dead existed, and I went on this adventure to get to see this film, and that movie changed my life. And it's George Romero in that movie. There are a number of things that have led to me pursuing filmmaking today, but that George Romero in that movie in particular play a big part of that. And I actually had the privilege. I got to interview Scott Reiniger a month ago, and he's such a nice guy, and I can't tell you how amazing it is to have gotten to talk to a man that was a star of this movie that's been my favorite film for 23 years and get to tell him the story of seeing it and getting to tell him how much that movie changed my life. There's no amount of money on earth that can give you that privilege. And I consider it an honor and a privilege. And he was very humble about it. He was almost taken aback. He's always really surprised at how many people love these films, and so many of them today weren't even alive when the movie came out, and he's really taken aback in a good way. I don't mean that in a negative way. He's really taken aback in a good way by the horror community and how passionate they are about these films and what they've done. So, so yeah, man, normal, I had an interesting childhood. I lost my dad when I was a kid, but, made through that, went through school. I actually started pursuing, interestingly enough, IT was the career I chose. My story is gonna be a little bit different than most from a filmmaking standpoint, because so many directors, they were playing with cameras and editing on camera, and that wasn't my story. I played with the camcorder a few times, and I enjoyed it the times I did, and I thought, wow, this is so much fun, man. Like, I wonder if I can do this camera trick or that camera trick, but it wasn't, and I don't, for whatever reason, it never translated to me mentally to pursue that as a career. That was something that Steven Spielberg did, so I just never pursued it. I took a graphic design class in college, and I didn't feel like I fit in, so I didn't pursue it. So I pursued IT. But once I hit my mid 30s, I don't know how to explain it to you. And those of you out there who are my age can probably relate to what I'm saying. There was like some kind of switch flipped. And I realized, man, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing, and I want to be something different. And I just didn't know what it was. And one of the things I'd always wanted to pursue was a podcast, but I just didn't have an idea. Well, I would say the biggest reason I'm a filmmaker today is a man named John Bloom. And most of you know John Bloom as Joe Bob Briggs. That's the character he created. John is a writer. So, Joe Bob was this character he created to do all the exploitation drive-in film reviews he did back in the 80s when he wrote for the paper in Texas. So I randomly ran across a clip of Monster Vision on YouTube, and I had completely forgotten about Monster Vision. And man, that went right into this nostalgia thing I'm in right now. And so I just started watching all these clips. Well, John is on Cameo. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. So let me send him some messages. So, I paid the $2.99 and I sent him a message, and he was very kind. He replied and answered my questions. And we went back and forth a couple of times, and I found myself wanting to find out who he was as a person. And it dawned on me, that's my podcast right there. What if I interview actors, authors, and directors in horror, but instead of focusing totally on their careers, what if I also focus on who they are as people? Because you just never see that, man. You never find out who are they, man. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Who's your hero? What's your, So I was like, that's what I want to do. So I bounced that idea off of Brian Keene, who's a horror author, and he really liked it, and he encouraged me to pursue it. And he got me in touch with a man named Matt Will Dawson. Matt and I just became really good friends of all this. I mean, that's been one of the most amazing things about this journey is just becoming the friendships that I built with people that, had I not pursued filmmaking, I would have never met. And they're just such lovely people. And Matt helped me because my question is like, how do I do this? What do I need to do it? So he helped answer all those questions for me, and I got my kit built together. And, as you can see, I'm podcasting now, but, and I started this podcast, man. The first guy I had on was a filmmaker named Harrison Smith. Super nice guy. He's incredible. This guy's brilliant. I thought I knew and liked movies until I talked to him, and I realized I don't know anything about film compared to this guy. I mean, he was mentioning directors and films I had never heard of, and I was so in awe of what this man knows about movies and his perspectives on things. And he was such a good guest. And then I had Hilton Ariel Ruiz on as my next episode, and fell in love with that guy, and he and I have become friends. He's just a wonderful guy, a wonderful filmmaker. We actually spent the vast majority of the episode talking about a short film he did in the 90s while he was in film school, which was interesting. It just was such a powerful film. He expressed so much in 6 minutes. I was really taken aback. At some point in those two conversations with those two people, I realized this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I want to be a filmmaker. I don't know how to do it. I just don't know. Now, in October, I had started my production company, Dawn Journey Productions, as an umbrella to do the podcast under.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you. This has been great to me so far, Brian, because I have a tick list of stuff, and you literally answered it for me without me having to speak. So for some of the salty tadpoles, this must be heaven for them, because they're going, we don't have to listen to James, we're listening to his wonderful guest. So, but I was going to ask for the genesis of Dawn of the Journey Productions. But what I also was going to interject, when you were talking about the outreach thing, of actually going to speak to people and learn from people who have worked in the industry, I literally can relate to you so much on that level, because there are people I've spoken through doing this who worked on James Bond films, which some of my favorite films have been like, holy crap, people I never ever thought I'd get to talk to.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you mean. And it was the same thing. I've not had them on as a guest, but it's the same thing when I've had communication with Reggie and Gigi Bannister, who were involved with the Phantasm film series, which I'm a huge fan of. I was like, wow, it's like you said, it's almost like the pinching yourself moment, because these are films that have been huge parts of my youth and childhood.
Yeah. Let me touch on that if you don't mind, because I think that's a very worthy topic to discuss. We get really caught up, and guys, at the end of the day, I'm still a fan. Okay. That's not left me. I've started to talk to people now semi regularly that it feels a little bit different, but I still geek out sometimes, and when you're in the industry, you have to check that. You can't come at people I'm a big fan. You have to come at them as a filmmaker.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm still a fan. That's not left me. But one of the perspectives I've gained in doing the podcast and in pursuing this is I've also learned to look at, and I think this just comes with getting older. You start to look at the older generation, mm-hmm. and you really start to see and glean the value that their life perspective brings, their life experience brings. And I've really found myself wanting to soak up as much of that as I can. And you mentioned the James Bond films. Mm-hmm. I have a friend, a guy named James Bond III. He goes by Jim. Jim actually is the man that wrote, directed, and produced Death by Temptation. And I'm behind on The Last Drive-In right now. I'm sorry, Joe Bob. And I had no idea, and I randomly saw on Facebook the other day that his movie was playing on The Last Drive-In, and I flipped out. I was raving about it on my Facebook. I was texting him. I'm like, Jim, your movie's on The Last Drive-In. And I was like, I know, man, I know. And like, talking to him, I met him. Well, I haven't met him in person, but I connected with him through a mutual friend we have. That man is so wise. And in the 40 years he's been in the industry, he's gained so much perspective. And he was so kind to just sit and talk with me and pass that on to me. And one of the things that I really took away from the longest conversation we had, he talked about the power that you wield as a filmmaker. He said movies and entertainment are not empty things. You know, film, TV, but film in particular, you have the power to change people.
Yeah.
Like you can make something so effective that it can change people's faith. It can change their political views. It can change their opinions. And that's a powerful thing to wield. And he really, I don't know if it was a caution as much as it was a heads up. Just know that you have the power to change the world with what you're doing. Don't take that for granted. Don't take that lightly.
Totally.
And the 2 hours I got to talk to him on the phone that night, man, it was just a life-changing conversation. And I had so much respect and gratitude for him, and I still do. And I'm very privileged and honored to call that man a friend. He's just a really good guy, and he's incredibly busy. A lot of these people are still very, very busy, you know, so to even get a minute of his time is a big deal. But I've been so fortunate to get to talk to these people, like, you know, interviewing Scott Reiniger, interviewing Harrison, interviewing Hilton, interviewing Jason Horton. You know, like I believe that no matter where someone is at in their filmmaking journey, whether they're a 40-year veteran or they've been doing it for a week, there is something you can learn and gain from every single person, because all of them have a unique perspective and all of them have a unique experience. You know, it's possible that the guy who's been making films for 1 week has run into an issue that you've never seen before. And then on your next production, you're going to run into that same issue. And you're going to remember, oh, hey, I talked to so-and-so and this is how he fixed that. You know, and it might have saved you a week of work, you know. So I think there's something to gain from everyone's perspective. But it's been a real honor and a real privilege to sit at the feet of these people that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years and hear what they have to say. And I find it so fascinating. I have sort of an obsession with the 70s and the 80s and film, just getting to work with actual film and work with those, you know, $20,000, you know, Panaflex cameras. And I just have such an admiration and respect because, like, when you make a movie today, it's expensive. I mean, even a no budget film has a budget. You just, you know, unless you just have equipment given to you, it's going to cost you money. I can't imagine adding on to that the stress of having a finite amount of film. You know, today you're at the mercy of your memory card, but back then, man, you know, you're spending $300 for, you know, X number of feet of film. And so, I mean, like when you talk about your shooting ratios, you know, you're shooting 3-to-1, you're shooting 3-to-1, period. Like you've budgeted, you got 3 takes and you got to get it right in 3 takes for that one scene. And then you got to move on. You know, I can't imagine the amount of pressure that added to filmmaking. And I guess that's all you knew was just part of it, but I just have such an admiration and respect for those guys, those men and women that did this in times past. There's just so much to glean and gain from them. And I'm really hoping more of them are going to start writing books. You know, when you venture out into filmmaking, the first thing you want to do is learn. And, you know, there's tons of YouTube videos, but I have found that there's just not enough books. And the books that there are tons of books out there, but they're outdated. You know, I mean, even books from like 2017, there's still some good general information in them, but they're not necessarily, you know, distribution has changed. The distribution model of 5 years ago is not viable anymore. You know, there's still a lot of people out there who have the perspective like, okay, I'm going to make a movie, I'm going to go find a distributor. No, that's not really the right way to do it anymore. You know, you want to get on the streaming platforms, you want to get on Film Hub, you want to get on the ad-based video on demand platforms. Like that's the new model. And there's still a lot of people holding on to the old school model, and there's still a place for it, but that's not really what you want to pursue first. So there needs to be more updated content. And I think the people that need to be writing those books are the people that have been doing this, for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years.
So what I was just thinking about something you said earlier, Bryan, that I thought was interesting. You were saying that initially, obviously, your career trajectory, you sort of trained for IT, and that's obviously what you looked at doing. So you had, and you are right, happens, I mean, you're younger than me, a few years younger than me, but it happens to a lot of people, certainly within our age brackets, where they decide they want to make a change. They're not happy with what they're doing. So what is it, do you think, that made you flip to think, right, that's definitely what I want to do for filmmaking? Is it that you looked at it and thought, well, I only have a finite amount of time? Because, you get to an age you're thinking, life is it's not just all highway now. I have to make a decision on what I'm going to do with myself.
Yeah. I think it's a number of things, man. And I think I gain a deeper understanding of it the longer I do it. And I'm still fairly new at it. I think initially I really was in awe of what they do. And I really liked the idea of being able to call myself a filmmaker. And I really liked the idea of being able to make a movie. I think what really was the game changer for me, the reason I credit Joe Bob a lot, I started my podcast because of that conversation I had with him. I ultimately decided to become a filmmaker because of a monologue he did. It's called Keep Rolling. You can find it on YouTube. It's 5 minutes and 47 seconds long, and it changed my life. And it's the perspective I have on being a filmmaker today. It's my attitude towards filmmaking today. Because up until that moment, I was like, okay, I'm an aspiring filmmaker, right? I've not done it yet. I'm an aspiring filmmaker. And he said one thing in there that just completely changed the game for me. He basically said, I'm not going to repeat it because he used a curse word, but he basically said aspiring doesn't exist. He said, F aspiring. Yeah. He said, you're a filmmaker. He said, if you have 10 minutes a day to work on your screenplay, you work on your screenplay 10 minutes a day. He said, you're not an auto mechanic. You're not a doctor. You're a director. You're a screenwriter. You're a filmmaker. That's how you need to start thinking. And I was like, okay, done. And I immediately said, I'm a filmmaker. Bam, that's what I'm going to do. And I hit the ground running. And so much has happened in a short period of time that my memory's still a little fuzzy on the order of events. I can't remember if I had started my screenplay or not yet, but that's when I got really serious about it and I really started pursuing it. And the movie I'm working on right now, Blood Repentance, it started out as a 2-minute challenge from a friend, because I started Dawn Journey Productions as the umbrella to do things under. Then when I decided to become a filmmaker, I'm like, okay, well now I'm really going to do something with this production company, so then I really started putting everything under that umbrella. So it kind of started out there, and as the project evolved, I started to realize that I have a purpose in this industry. One of the prevailing messages you hear, and God, everybody, please forgive me, I have a cough drop in my mouth. I'm kind of coming down with a cold, I think, so I apologize if the audio is kind of crazy. One of the prevailing messages you hear when you pursue acting, screenwriting, filmmaking is how hard it is to break into the industry. And I couldn't tell you why exactly I'm so gung-ho about this, but I really have a problem with that message. I don't like it, and I want to change that. And you hear people talk about being the change, and I know some great people out there who are working to be the change. I also want to be the change. So my goal with Dawn Journey Productions, I want to make movies, and I'll touch on that here in a second on why I want to make movies, what's so amazing about it. But my bigger goal, if I never made another film the rest of my life, the one thing I want to do before I die is I want to create a company that if a person coming up decides they want to be a filmmaker, I want the first thing to come in their mind, I'm going to call Dawn Journey Productions. They're going to call me. I'm going to say, okay, well, here are my company's values. Here's what we believe. If you're willing to, let your project fit within these values, we're going to make your movie. We have studio space, we have cameras. We'll sit down and we'll go over your script with you. We'll help iron that out. We're going to assign you a veteran director mentor who's going to be available to you, email, phone. He's going to be on set with you as your AD. We're going to walk you through the entire filmmaking process. Filmmaking is accessible now. I want to make it more accessible, and I want to give people the ability to make a good movie. That's something that people can be proud of, and in hopes that they're going to pass that along one day. And we're going to walk you from A to Z how to make a film, and we're going to make your movie. I want filmmaking to be accessible to everyone, and I would love for them to be able to make money at the beginning. I don't yet quite know how I'm going to pull it off. We're gaining momentum, and I'm doing a lot of networking, and I'm pretty active on social media. I don't yet know how I'm going to pull that off, but I'm trying. And every time I get to talk to somebody about filmmaking and I see their face light up, that's what it's about. I believe we are put on this earth to serve other people, and our ultimate mission in life is to love. That's what life is all about. It's loving and encouraging other people. And there's so many people out there. One of the things I'm really big on, there's so many people out there today who are hurting and who don't have anyone, or who feel like they don't have anyone. They feel alone. They feel like their life has no meaning and that the world would be a better place without them. And I'm trying to tell people, no, that's actually the complete opposite. I'm glad you're here. I love you, and I want to give you a big hug, and I want you to know that life matters and that the world is blessed to have you here. The world is a better place, So, man, my legacy, I want to bless people. I want to love people, and I want to see people grow and thrive. And, the people that my team that I have in my company, I'm surrounded by these wonderful people who believe in what I'm doing and have just said, I'm in, and it's like, I don't care if we're not getting paid, I'm in, and they're giving their time. And that's a gift I can never repay. If we became a multi-billion-dollar company and I made these people billionaires, it'll never repay them for the time they've given me. And the honor and the privilege is to have had these people look at me and say, I believe in what you're doing, and I want to stand next to you, and I hope that I can make them all billionaires one day, that every one of them deserves it. But I'm not in this to get rich, man. I'm in this because personally, I want to be happy and I want to inspire people. And to all the future, I'm not going to call you aspiring, to all the future filmmakers out there, here's what I want to say to you. There's no time like the present to make a movie. And, at the end of the show, I'll give out my Facebook. I'll give out ways to get a hold of me. If you want to make a movie, you reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I'll tell you what you need to do. I'll be happy to help as much as I can. The time is now to make your film. You are a filmmaker, and I can't begin. And here's what I want to do to really motivate you. I want you to go out and watch that Joe Bob, and James, you watch it too, man. I want you to watch that Joe Bob monologue. I'll send you a link to it. Please, it'll change your life. But when you spend months, and I mean months, planning, writing, coordinating, staffing, finding people that believe in what you're doing, that want to be a part of this project. You spend months and months and months of, there's ups and downs, man. Things go wrong. You get frustrated. When you spend all these months planning, that first day on set, I cannot begin to tell you how magical it feels. It's literally magic. You're in a location. You're surrounded by actors. You're surrounded by crew. You have your camera right there. And I mean, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking, if I feel the, tingling going on in my neck, cause like, it almost makes me want to cry, cause it's magic. And like, I kept saying to Scott, one of my business partners, I kept saying to Scott, I'm like, Scott, we're making a movie. It's like, and I'm looking back on all of these months of preparation and how difficult it was. And here we are making a film. And I just can't, I wish I could reach out and touch people and let them feel that feeling. It's literally magic. And I want to spend the rest of my life doing that. I mean, it's the coolest thing in the world. And like, and it's so much fun too, because like you really build these people become your family, and you have all these wonderful inside jokes that start, and you're laughing and you're cutting up and you're being serious at the same time. And it's just so cool, man, to write on something on paper and then to bring it to life, to stand behind the camera and frame it, frame up your shots. And you're like, okay, I like the way that looks. And then you say action and you start watching people. And I have been so incredibly blessed and fortunate in this journey. I've been given opportunities that not everybody gets. And I don't ever want to take that for granted. 2 weeks ago, I talk about Monster Vision. A very dear friend of mine is Honey Michelle Gregory. I love that woman. She is one of the kindest, nicest, smartest, wonderful people you'll ever meet. She's just brilliant. She's a wonderful human being. And I'm so privileged to have her as a friend. And she came to Tennessee to be in my movie. I literally spent an evening with Honey Michelle Gregory in my film. And I'm just like, and I told her this, and I mean this. The rest of my career, I don't care who I direct in a movie. It could be Tom Cruise, you pick anybody out there. Like, none of it will ever top getting to direct Honey Michelle Gregory in my film. That will always be my favorite movie making moment is getting to make a movie with her. She's awesome, and she's awesome to work with. Just there's no amount of money that can give you those feelings, man. Like if you make a multimillionaire, because here's the thing. Here's what I've noticed. Like there are directors out there they do well. I mean, Steven Spielberg is multimillionaire. There are all these multimillionaire directors. That's not why they do what they do. There was an Italian director, and I wish I could remember his name. But there was literally, he passed away recently, but there was an Italian director. This guy loved making movies so much. He loved being on set so much. He literally had separate identities. And instead of taking breaks between movies, I'm not kidding. Instead of taking breaks between movies, he actually changed his identity and went and did cinematography on a set, and then directed another movie, and then went and did cinematography for another movie. And he just changed his identities, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question because you just hit on a question that I'm desperate to ask you.
Yeah, please.
The multiple hats. I mean, I alluded to it at the start. Actor, director, producer, cinematographer. How the hell do you pull all this stuff together and keep going? How do you keep the energy levels up? I'm intrigued. It's a question I've asked a few people on their respective careers, how they keep the energy going. But you, for all those hats, because I also want to get into discussing the films that you're involved with.
Yeah, please.
But how do you do it, dude? How do you keep all those hats on? I can barely keep one hat going sometimes. So how on earth do you do that?
It's tough at times. And thank you and nobody's ever asked me that. I really appreciate you asking that. It's difficult at times. I won't lie. I mean, there was a week recently where I basically literally had no free time. I worked my day job. I got off and I was working on movie stuff. I was in meetings with, script we were optioning. I was, I don't remember what all I did that week, but I mean, I literally, it was difficult. And what's interesting is my podcast has gotten so busy. I'm actually booked up through September right now. My podcast has gotten so busy. The film thing has got like, I naturally am very aversive to, I think it's a word, aversive. I'm gonna say it's a word. We're just gonna go with it.
Well, Roman, if it's not, you've created it. Webster, stamp that sucker. It's Bryan Parkerson's creation, no one else's.
I'm very aversive, quote unquote, to schedules. So believe it or not, having to live on a calendar depresses me. I'm a very spontaneous, let me just call you. And here's an interesting mystery of life to the younger people out there.
Yeah.
The older you get. I saw a joke about this. I never really thought about it, but it's actually very true. The older you get, the more you look at your calendar when you want to hang out with your friends. Because now when I text somebody, I'm like, hey, do you want to do something? They're like, yeah, let me check my calendar. And, and they have to look like, am I doing something with my family that week? Am I going to be at work that day? And it's the same with filmmaking. I mean, it takes up a lot of your time. I would say I think there are a couple things that really drive me. Mm-hmm. Number one, I'm very much an extrovert. I thrive on people. I love people. I love talking to people. I love building relationships. The networking part of film is my favorite thing. I've actually considered maybe starting a talent agency because I love advocating for people, and that's something I get to do in IT. When my clients are having problems, I have to be their advocate. When I get other companies involved, I love seeing other people succeed. And I want everybody to experience this magic. So I'm an extrovert, so I'm energized by people. So that helps. Number two is I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I feel privileged. It actually really genuinely feels like an honor and a privilege. And I know I say that a lot, but I mean it. To call myself a filmmaker, to hear somebody else call me a filmmaker, to be counted amongst those people. I mean, I feel privileged to hear that, and that drives me. It's like, this is what I want to be. And when I like something, when I'm passionate about something, I go at it 1,000%, like, full speed. The other thing is I really believe in the mission that I feel like I've been given to in this world, that not only is it to love people, but it's also to create a safe, accessible filmmaking experience for people. And what I mean by that is, I've heard stories from people about experiences they've had in pursuing film or just pursuing movies in general. And I'm really bothered that there are people out there who have literally had to choose between taking their clothes off and having a career, or maintaining their dignity, not being exploited and not having a career. There are a lot of young women out there who have had to make that choice. And I'm disgusted by that, and I'm bothered by that, and I want to change that. You know, any person that comes to Dawn Journey, I want them known for who they are and the talent they have, and for who they are as a human being. So that's a really big thing on my heart. Is I want a safe environment for people. I want a place that fosters creativity. I want a place that helps you grow not only in your career, but as a person as well. And I want to give you the opportunity to help the next generation of filmmaker out there. You know, so I really want to be a positive change, and that drives me, man. And more, I feel like I am a man of faith. I more and more feel like God just brings these people or, you know, into my life or brings these situations to my life that show me it's like, this is why I've put you here. I've put you here not for you, not for your glory, but for mine. And you accomplish that by blessing these people, by helping these people, by loving these people. Because so many, like I said earlier, there's so many people out there who just feel terribly alone and are hurting. And I really have a heart for those people. And that's one of the things that's so beautiful about the horror community. You know, like we're talking about Joe Bob again. You talk about
no, it's all good. It's all good.
You talk about the Last Drive-In community. They're a very tight knit group when you watch them, and I think the reason for that is, and I hope this doesn't sound the wrong way, but it's just a fact. The horror community tends to be comprised of the people who were the outcasts in high school, the people who weren't popular. That's not across the board, but that tends to be the vast majority of people in that community. What's so beautiful about the horror community, because it's full of those people, they're incredibly welcoming and incredibly kind to everyone. You walk into the horror community, you're met with open arms. Hey, we're happy to have you here. And these are people who have really, 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 they have a very deep capacity for loving human beings. And I think a lot of that's because these are people who come from abused backgrounds. These are people who feel emotions extremely strongly. And because of that, they have a very deep capacity to love others. And the horror community is just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful place to be accepted. You know, here's a place where I can come in and I can just be me. You know, whether it's I want to dress like Michael Myers, I want to be a zombie, I want to it's just a wonderful thing. And so I really have a heart for those people. And it really doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're artistic or not, whether you like sports or not, or whether you just like one particular movie, those people will welcome you with open arms, and it's beautiful. James, I actually forgot where I was going.
No, but what you said there is a very interesting point, because I found that the first time I ever went to a sci-fi convention, I was astounded how I'd never been to conventions, and it was a Star Trek when I was like, wow, everyone's so welcoming and open to people and talking to people. The question I was asking is how you keep how you keep positive and keep going with all the different hats you've got to wear. And from the way you're describing it to me, I would look at it this way. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The drive for you is seeing the success of others, and I would think that's probably what keeps you going.
No. Well, seeing others succeed, yes. I misunderstood what you said. I apologize. That's one thing, but I think even more than that is I know that there are a lot of people out there that need to be reached and told that they're loved. If you follow me on Facebook, I've started doing something recently. Every morning I post a word of encouragement to everyone, no matter how much I know you, whether or not you're an acquaintance, Facebook friend, or you're a close personal friend, it doesn't matter where you're at in my life in terms of how much I know you. This applies very much to you. I like to post an encouragement to people. I just started this week, actually. A word of encouragement to people, and I want to remind you that you're loved and that your life matters.
Yes.
And I post a picture of animals hugging each other. And that is a small way I'm trying to reach those people. I want, because man, I've been there, I have, just to be vulnerable to the audience, I every day I live with extreme obsessive compulsive disorder. If you go to my TikTok, I actually have a couple of videos on there where I show what my hands looked like at one point. They were cracking and bleeding from washing them so much. And it's debilitating at times. Mm-hmm. It makes life difficult. And, I have been in my past in a place where I used to self-harm. If you look at my left arm, I have burns on my left arm from cigarettes, where I used to put cigarettes on my arm because I was hurting so bad. And I've been in those dark places, mm-hmm. and they're ugly. Mm-hmm. And you can literally be surrounded by, I've always had a really good family and a good support system, but I still felt so alone. And it's very strange how you can be surrounded by love, but feel unloved and feel alone. Yeah. And I know that there's so many people out there that, I apologize. I know
okay.
There's so many people out there who are hurting like that. And I just want those people to know that I love you and that you're loved. And, I just want to bless people, man. I want to reach people. And that's what keeps me going. I feel like I have a mission. It's like, you're here. And I don't know if it's just the film community. I don't know what, but man, I'm trying to reach as many as I can. It's like, I just believe so deeply that I have this mission to create something that's going to change the world and change the lives of as many people as I can reach for the better. And just give and just make film more accessible and encourage people. I think that's what my big drive is. Like, I have this mission.
Well, you have started it and you are doing it, and that is a very noble, wonderful thing you're doing. And it leads on perfectly to my question, which was going to be about the films you're working on at the moment.
Yeah.
So I saw a trailer to the film you're on. I hope to God I pronounce this right. Trepidity?
Yeah, okay, yeah, Trepidity. That's it. Yeah.
Hey, I got it right. I'm impressed. But I saw the teaser. Trepidity is awesome, man. Let me talk to you a little bit about Acrostar Films. So Acrostar was started by a guy named Steve Herman, who is a friend of mine. And we became friends through Trepidity, actually. That's to give a little more context to what I'm about to say. Independent film, I don't know for sure if it's always been this way, but independent film is it's becoming very tribal. And by that, I mean, you're starting to see little studios pop up that are comprised of a director, a producer, and a bunch of actors. And they're making their own stuff. They're putting out content. It's just the same, it's an original concepts, but they just happen to have the same actors. And I think it's wonderful. And these families are forming. I mean, it's very familial. It's exactly what George Miro did, actually. So I'm trying to think. Anne reached out. So Anne Myrna is the producer for Acrostar. And I think the way it went down, because it's been a while, I believe that she added me to the Trepidity group because they were doing an Indiegogo. And I just, for whatever reason, kind of connected with these people. And I became an assistant producer on the project. And then I became friends with Steve. What did it for me, though, is I actually had Ann, Steve, and a lot of the cast of Trepidity on my podcast. And I fell in love with those people. They are, I love them. Mm-hmm. I love them. And Steve's very fond of them, too. He'll tell you, they're his family. I consider them family at this point. They're just the loveliest group of people, and they're all very kind, and they'll they'll go out of their way to do anything in the world for you. They're just a wonderful group of people. And so I got to see an advanced screening of Trepidity. I was like, yeah, this is great, man. Like, I saw a rough cut of it. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic film. And I got to have him on the podcast. I just got to get involved. And it's been really cool to sit back and watch the level of success that Steve is achieving. He's very much in a lot of ways who I'm trying to become. He's done an amazing amount of work, and he's accomplished a lot of amazing things in a year. And he's built this wonderful company. He's built this wonderful group of people that I'm very privileged to be a part of. And what's interesting is Steve and I are actually co-writing a movie right now.
It's called It Came From So it's called It Came From Somewhere. And man, it is a ton of fun writing this script. I can't tell you a lot about it. What I can say is it's very much it's an ode to the 50s sci-fi B movies. Okay. And we are taking it very seriously. We're showing a lot of respect to that Corman-esque way of making movies. Like we're paying a proper tribute to this. I don't think in my entire career I'll ever write a script as unique or as fun to write as this one, because I mean it's we've gotten to where we actually when we get on Zoom and write, we spend a lot of time laughing because it's just so much fun. It's a great script. So that's I don't know what all I can give away, but that's coming soon. I'll say that.
I'll do your deal then. I'll ask this of you. If you can't give me a lot of stuff now, can I both get you on nearer the time to discuss?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get Steve. Yeah.
I would love to have you both on to learn more about the process and what's happened. Because as soon as you said like 50s B movie stuff, the light bulb above my head goes on because I love stuff like that. I absolutely love it.
And this is going to be believe me when I tell you, like, I'm very much on board with Steve's vision of this, and he's taken painstaking steps to do this properly and to make a true love letter to that type of film. And you know, it's funny, when he announced that was really early on in our friendship, and I fell in love with the concept immediately. He did this little trailer with, like, you know, it was black and white, the horror font would pop across, it came from somewhere. You see the little UFO, and I fell in love with it. I was just raving about it. And so one day he just randomly reaches out to me. He says, he's like, "Hey man, how would you like to be a part of It Came From Somewhere?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. What do you need from me? I'm there." He's like, "Why don't you co-write it with me?" What? And it's like, wow, yeah, man. Done, man. So that's one of the I've got my hands on a number of things. I got to help. I got to be an assistant producer on or associate producer. There's so many different producer types. I was an associate producer on Craving.
I wanted to ask you about that because that seemed a very interesting. Cause there's a drug addict leaning on that one, isn't there? Involved with that sounds.
This movie, I am really hoping, is going to be Jason's Pulp Fiction. And I'm hoping it's going to be, people know who Jason is, but I'm hoping it's going to bring him to the Tarantino level. It's a very unique story. It's a good story. I've gotten to connect with the majority of the cast, and they are all wonderful people. Robert Bravo is the guy that's doing the special effects, and he's really incredibly talented. I actually met Jason. I haven't met Jason in person, but I've talked with him. I connected with him through a mutual friend, and I had him on the podcast. I love Jason Horton as a human being. This is one of those people that just understands things on a deeper level than most. And he has such a big heart, and he has such a good heart that he doesn't keep it to himself. He just gives it right back out. He's got a YouTube channel called just Jay Horton, and he does all these videos talking about filmmaking. And it's a friend, but he's a gifted teacher. He's so good at teaching these things, and he talks about everything: the budgeting, the film. I mean, you pick a topic, that's what he's talking about. And he's so generous with his time, and he's so generous with his knowledge. He said something to me on our podcast that I'll never forget. He made the statement, and I've adopted this myself. He made the statement, a selfish filmmaker is an unsuccessful filmmaker. Pause on that for just a second. Let that sink in. He's onto something there. And I have found, man, that when you're invested in other people, other people come to you. There's no need to be selfish in all this. There's a really cool movement happening in the Knoxville film community right now. I'm gonna give a shout out to somebody. There's a guy named Tony Cottle, and Tony he's a local producer. He's actually working for a company now called Promotion LLC, run by a guy named James Gilly. Shout out to James Gilly as well. Tony and Silk Coatsart, a lot of people know who Silk Coatsart is. He's a phenomenal actor. I got to meet him for the first time a couple weeks ago, and man, that guy, like, he is such a nice person. Like, I can't begin to tell you his energy, you can tell he loves people and he loves the film community. He wants everybody doing it. Like, what a wonderful man he is. I was just really vibing with him, man. I'm going to have him on the podcast soon. Tony created this mixer, and he's created this thing on Facebook called the Film Community, but he puts the highlight on unity. And his heart is the heart that I have. We're all on the same team. We're all, there's this unneeded competition amongst people it's just not needed. We're a family of artists that want to do the same thing. Let's help each other, man. Let's pull our resources and make movies. Hey, I need a camera guy. Well, hey, talk to Don and see what he's doing. That's what, and Tony has worked for several years trying to build this, and he's done an amazing job. And just this community continues to grow and grow and grow, but it's all about taking the competition out of it and just making it about the unity of it and getting people to realize that we're all on the same team and we all have a common goal and we can all help each other reach that goal,
Well, there are two things that resonated with me on that you said, which is that, well, you've said it throughout, you're getting to meet people that the work in the industry, and I'm getting it with you now, and I've had it with other people in the past, which is you meet them, you're thinking, God, they're actually nice people. Thank God, they're nice people. And the other thing is the way that you mentioned this about the way people treat other people, the way, filmmakers, studios, etc. But you hear it with actors, because unfortunately, a lot of the time you hear the story of actor is not nice to fan, etc. And I remember listening to an interview that Kevin Smith did with Mark Hamill, and they both said the same thing, which is these are the people who make you, the fans. Don't be an arse to them, basically. And it's very true. And touch wood, for me, so far, I've kind of had a similar experience to you, which is I've met people, none of the people I've met have let me down. And it's a very refreshing thing. They've always been very nice, kind people who've given the time to talk to you and been interested in discussing things with you. And I'm going to take us right to the thing that I'm going to be really honest with you on. The poster alone blew my socks off. I want to know about what you can tell me about Blood Repentance, because the poster alone, seriously, no BS. I do not BS people. The poster, I was like, this looks very interesting.
Wow.
The thing of the hook, and I am not BSing the hook of, I'm like, so let me get straight. They're looking for the friend, and then it's the whole cemetery thing, and I was like, wow, yeah, you got me, dude. The poster as well, the whole thing drew me in. If you don't know what I'm talking about, people, you're missing out. Get on IMDb and look for Bryan.
Wow, man, that's I'm really, thank you for wow, that's
not gosh, wow, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Let me start with the poster. So that poster was actually created by Matt Wildawson, my friend. Matt has a heart of gold, and I love that man. I love that man. He is such an amazing human being. He's got a podcast called the Grindcast. Definitely check it out. It's hilarious. Matt is one of those people that he cares more about the success of others than he does himself. And I can't begin to tell you how much I owe Matt. And I love that man. He's my brother. Mm-hmm. I would do anything in the world for that man. And he's an incredibly gifted graphic designer. Actually, not only did Matt design the poster for Blood Repentance, he designed the poster for Trepidity. Those are both his posters. So if you ever, anybody out there making a movie, if you need a poster at a reasonable cost, and I mean reasonable, reach out to Matt. He's incredibly patient. He's incredibly kind, and he'll get it right for you. That was actually the third iteration. The first two, I'm like, okay, you're near it. And then he sent me that one. I was like, make the water red, and that's it. And yeah. And then he added the text to that font that he used. It's man, I could not ask for a better poster. I mean,
it works, but it works perfectly because straight away I was like, that gets my attention. That really did. It really grabs your attention.
James, what I feel right now, this is why I want everybody to make a movie. It's so flattering is not the right word. I can't. Every time I have someone reach out to me on Facebook and they just want to be in my movie, it breaks my heart to have to tell them that I'm fully cast. I wish I had the budget to just like continue to expand this cast, because there are several people out there who have wanted to be in this movie, and they very badly want to be in it, and I hate that I can't cast them. Every time that happens, every time somebody says something like what you just said, I don't even know what to say. It's just like, holy crap! Like this little thing I'm working on, man. Like people are, like they're like, wow, this looks amazing. I don't know how I've gotten here. Like I can tell you the story and I can tell you what I've done but it's like, but when you sit and take stock of everything as a whole, it's incredibly humbling. And you're like, how am I sitting here right now on a podcast talking about my movie?
Well, tell you what, Brian, tell me about the story then, because you said you can tell me the story you go there. I want to know that story. The listeners want to know that story. Yeah.
So here's the problem. I pack so much stuff into a 20-minute film that I can't say a whole lot. I can give you a very general idea, but I'm actually going to make it worse for you, and I'm glad I'm going to do it because it's kind of fun doing that to people. So it's about four friends who work in a paranormal investigation company. The fifth friend has disappeared, and one of them gets them all together and implores, like, we've got to go find so-and-so. We've got to go find this person. And all hell breaks loose. And it's there are a lot of twists in this movie, a lot. Like Shyamalan would be upset at me. I put so many twists in this movie. I mean, like I say there's a lot. There are some big twists, and they're big. And my ultimate goal is I want people extremely uncomfortable watching this movie. It's not there's some gore in it. It's not, and when I say uncomfortable, there's some things that happen. It's not gross out type stuff. It's just the subject matter. Like, this is very much a story about loss and redemption. If I pull this off and I do this right, redemption is going to be the biggest message there. Because I think redemption is really important. Yeah, it's hard. It's tough because I want to tell people more about the story, but literally to do that, I'm giving away twists. Well, like that much happens in 20 minutes. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Off air, I'll share with you some stuff.
Okay, we can have a chat off air because I'm desperate to know. I'm going to ask you one. What has been the biggest challenge of making so far? Because are you still filming? Have I got that right?
Yeah. We have about 3 more production days. So making it as a filmmaker, or making it as just in this movie, making the movie itself.
Let's go with both hats.
Okay, sure. Woo. Well, we'll start. We're talking about blur prints, we'll start there. The biggest challenge for this particular project has been scheduling. We're all, I work a full-time job. My team works a full-time job. My actors work full-time jobs. So it's tough at times in COVID. We were supposed to film some more a couple weeks ago, and there was a COVID exposure that happened to one of my team members. So we, had to play it safe and call it off. And I would say really the biggest challenge has been just trying to get the schedules right, because everybody has different schedules, but you make it work. And you film when you can. I mean, it's taken longer, but one of the benefits of doing a no budget film, one of the benefits of doing an independent film is I'm not beholden to anyone on a deadline. So, we can, and this has been a learning process for everyone. I mean, this has been the greatest piece of advice you'll ever get from any filmmaker. And I believe this is to get out there and do it. I heard that from Harrison Smith. I believe I heard that from Hilton, and John Carpenter himself says it. Get out there and make something. And that's what I did. I was in film school for 12 hours. No joke. 12 hours. It was amazing. It was an awesome feeling. Then it fell through, and it broke my heart. Like, well, I still got to do this, So
hey, but that's sort of what happened with Kevin Smith. Look at him. So yeah.
You just got to get out there and do it. And one of the biggest challenges of doing it is like, how do I do it? because I had nothing. I had an iPhone and that was it. And I didn't have the money to invest in things. And this is where the networking and this is where the film community is so important. There are so many people out there that are every bit as passionate about film as you are, and they want to make things. And it's sort of this symbiotic relationship because everyone benefits in some way from it. It's weird because like when you're doing a no budget project, you're not paying your actors. Well, I am going to run and this will be the first podcast I mentioned. I'm going to do an Indiegogo that's in the future. And I have some really cool things we're going to do. And I'll make that, you'll be the first show I announce that on. I've been really humbled by the willingness of people to sacrifice, because the one currency you can never get back in this life is your time. And Corey, Brittany, Donovan, Scott, Tess, Honey, Hannah, like I've had so many people sacrifice, Joey the Arm. There's a joke behind that. One of our guys, Joey, his arm kept showing up in a shot. So Donovan suggested that we start calling him Joey the Arm, and it just kind of stuck, So we're actually thinking about in the credits doing like his name with just like an arm, the arm emoji. But these people have given me the greatest gift somebody can give you, and it's their time. And they're every bit as passionate about the project as I have. And I'll tell you something, folks. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care how good of a director you are. You are nothing without your team. Steven Spielberg himself cannot make a film alone. He has to have a team of people behind him. And that is your lifeblood. That is what it's all about. It's not about you. It's about your team. And they are your family, and you need to treat them like your family. I very badly want to pay every one of these people. And that's probably going to be the biggest reason I do I have, the Indiegogo. I want to premiere in a theater. I want to do a red carpet event party. I want to really just do it up, which may sound ridiculous for a short film, but I don't care. I'm going all out. But the other thing I want to do is I want to pay my actors. And I want to pay my crew because they deserve it. They've been just champions, and they've given me the greatest gift that one of the greatest gifts I've ever gotten. And that's the privilege to make a movie. And it's because of them that it's happening, not because of me, but because of them. But scheduling's hard, but that goes into one of the greatest skill you can ever have as a director. There are two really important things that every director needs to have. Number one, you need to be able to be MacGyver. And by that, I mean, you need to be adaptable, because as a director, you're a leader, and leadership is about humility and service. It's not about being in charge. It's about humility and service. By proxy or by consequence, people look to you for what to do. But your job at the end of the day is serving your audience. It's serving your crew and your cast. And it's really important how you conduct yourself, because when things go wrong, and they will go wrong. I mean, the first week we were supposed to shoot, I lost 2 actors. One of them was my lead, one of my leads. But I was able to recast, and this person brought something really incredible to the part. And the script rewrite we did to fit the change made the script even better. And this person is now a member of my team, my company, and she's a producer, and I mean, she's amazing. It's Onyx Miller. She's fantastic. This girl is an incredibly talented actress, but she's also an incredibly talented producer. She's an incredibly talented human being in general, and she's awesome. And I'm so lucky to have her on the team. People look in those times when things go wrong, and they will go wrong. Your team are looking to you to see how to react. And if they see you fall apart, if they see you come unglued or even get angry, they lose faith in you. What they need to see, what they want to see, and what you should show is that, okay, I can be cool in the moment, and let me think about this for a minute, and we'll figure out a solution. And what they need to see from you are answers. They need to see a person who is able to adapt and overcome. And that's a trait of a good leader, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say you have to be a robot and you can't have emotions, but have one person that you go to with your negative emotions. Get them out and let only that person see them, and then move on. don't let it get you down. I think some people probably give up because of the challenges, but that's part of the filmmaking process. Like things are going to go wrong, and it can be very frustrating at times. Have your person there. For me, that person for me is Scott. Scott was the second person to become a part of Dawn's journey, and he's one of my best friends now. And so if I'm feeling negative, if I'm feeling upset or angry, I go to Scott and I get those emotions out, and he talks me through it, and then I move on. I mean, and that's it. And then you just find a solution. So you don't have to be a robot, but it's important how you conduct yourself around your team. It's important what you let people see. You're making a movie. That's what you can't lose sight of at the end of the day. No matter how frustrating it gets, no matter how whatever negative emotion you want to pick, you're making a movie. You're making a movie. Like, don't ever forget that. You're making a movie. And at some point, that challenge is going to be overcome. And then one day you're going to be on set and you're going to be behind the camera. And it's magic. And it's almost like I would compare it to like, I don't know if I should use this simile or not. But, you hear about women who give birth. And you hear about how extremely painful it is. And then when that child is born and they're holding in their arms for the first time, all of those hours and days of pain immediately disappear. They're just gone. And I feel weird using that as a metaphor or simile, but I would say it's probably the principle's the same. It's just believe it or not, those challenges are what make it more magical on set, because here you are, it's like going on a long road trip, and you gotta. It's like, okay, the hours and the hours and the hours, and you go, and then finally you're at the Grand Canyon. It's like, wow, the challenges make it better. The other thing that you need to be able to do, you need to be a people person.
Yes.
And to elaborate on that, I like to, John Carpenter, I heard an interview with him. I think it was a Mick Garris interview. And John said that with his actors, he is to them whatever it is they need. And the illustration he used, he said, I might have an actor that needs a father figure, so I'm a father figure to that person. I might have somebody that needs me to be a complete jerk to them, and I'll be a complete jerk if I need to be. He adapts himself to his people to get the performances that he needs for the project. It's extremely important that you be able to get along with people. You also need to be humble and teachable, and be willing to listen and collaborate. I'll admit that when I first started writing Blood Repentance, I was extremely guarded about that script, and I didn't want, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but it's true, I didn't want any other name on that script but mine.
But that, to be fair, makes sense. I completely understand that, because that's your baby, that's your creation, and you will want to have a level of control over it. But obviously what you're saying, and it's probably a lesson a lot of us need to learn in life, is that you need to open yourself up to other people, not give it all away, not obviously just like go, hey, it's all yours, run with it, steal my copyright. But this thing of the more people you can bring in, because it's something I once. It's a very influential thing that I heard somebody say for myself, which is don't think you've got all the answers. Build a team. I mean, it's something I'll bring in, like with Ton. My father's retired now, but he was the chief executive, and he said you build a good team around you. Basically, you have the people who can answer the questions you can't answer, and you've got to be able to trust them to get you the best possible results. Yeah. And yeah, to me, that's very true in life in general.
I am sitting in this chair talking to you today because of other people.
Yeah.
Because of my publicist and because of my team.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger gave a commencement speech a number of years ago. I don't know how long ago it was. But he said that there's no such thing as a self-made man. And that is so true. Every person alive right now that is extremely successful is successful because somebody took a chance on them, and they were surrounded by people who believed in them. And they may not be they had at least one other person. I mean, like, somebody took a chance on them. Somebody believed in them. There's no such thing as a self-made man. I'm where I'm at right now, not because of some great talent that I have. It's two things. I believe God has opened a lot of doors for me, and I have a good team. I am nothing without my team. I want to stress that I'm nothing without my team. And that's the lesson I learned on this journey. You know, I may write a screenplay by myself, but one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to get other people, get them to read it and help me improve it. I learned that, man, writing with a team is where it's at. Not only is it more fun, but you just get a better product. Other people have great ideas too, and they can really bring something. And now, I mean, like if you look at the script for Blood Repentance, there's like 8 names on it. And I don't care because every one of those people made it a better movie. And I'm glad to have had them be a part of it, big or small. I'm all about writing with a team. It's great. And then to write the screenplay and to do that first table read, I'll give you another little thing about the movie. There's a really great dynamic between 2 characters that I'm hopefully going to be filming this part of the film in a couple weeks, and I cannot wait to see. It's just like there are certain parts in this script that we're probably going to have to do like 13 or 14 takes because they make me laugh every single time. One of these characters, the way he is just really, and you'll see when you see the film. And I'll tell you more about it after if you want to know. But like, it's just, and what makes the performances even better is the 2 characters, the real life people, Donovan and Scott, actually have a history. So like so a little bit of that comes out, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, but a little bit of that comes out too. And it's just so fun. It's just hilarious. But you're nothing without your team. So writing with a team is extremely important, but being able to collaborate and listen to your people, that's such an essential skill. You know, when the night we were filming with Honey, Corey Davison, who plays one of the parts in the film, he's a really wonderful Knoxville actor. I love Corey. He's family to me now. I hope to do a lot more stuff with him in the future, but you know, just having him as a friend is he's just an amazing guy. And there was one scene in particular we were filming. He said, Bryan, what if I, you know, stopped and looked like this, and you know, and he just kind of did something. I'm like, yeah, go with it, man. And it was great. It was fantastic. And you know, when you're on set with me, you'll hear people worry about like usurping the director, you know, or like overstepping. It's like, no, man. What I say to that is, if you're really worried about that, just say, hey, I've got an idea. You know, do you mind, you know, can I bounce off? Like, I'm going to say absolutely. And we're probably going to use it because everyone has something really unique and special they can bring to a project. They really do. And I think ultimately it leads to a better product. I think it's going to lead to a better movie, you know? And if I were someone that was just completely closed off and objected to everything I heard and was like, no, I got a vision and that's what we're doing, I just don't think my movie would be nearly as good as it will be, you know, assuming that it's good. I'm going to try.
Well, I think it's going to be brilliant. And I've got to say that's a really, and I will give you some insight why I think your attitude is absolutely brilliant and beautiful about listening to other people, because I've worked for people who don't do that. And they have been some of the worst people I've ever worked for in my life, because it's all about them. It's the ego. It's them. It's not the group around them. And it leads to failure. So my next question is going to be Blood Repentance. When are we looking at it coming out? What's the estimated, I was going to say ETA, but that's ETA. Well, I guess estimated time of arrival might work, but when's the estimated release date?
I want to have it in the can by November. I'd like to premiere it in November. And it's gonna, my ultimate goal, I want to put it, you know, unfortunately, because it's a short film. Let me say this. I've had a couple of ideas. You know, with the Indiegogo, there are a couple things, and I'll go ahead and touch on that. Don't let me forget about my brain does this all the time, so I might forget what your original question was. With the Indiegogo, one of my initial goals is I want to make $10,000. And I want that to sort of offset some of the production costs, but I want to pay my people as well. I want to use that money to get the movie in theaters, maybe do some more marketing, and just hit the festival circuit with it. That's going to help pay for festivals. But the vast majority of that will go to my actors and my crew, because they deserve it. If we can hit $10,000, and I somewhat regret saying this, but I said it to my team and I'm gonna stick by it. If we can make $10,000 on this Indiegogo, I'm going to let my team actually get the camera, start filming, and they're going to shave my beard off.
Wow. Now, again, that is a mighty manly beard, so that's quite a thing. That's that's the behind the scenes stuff that you don't expect, is it? But hey, Bryan, that's a good one. I like it. That's real dedication. So
I want to pay my people.
Is the Indiegogo up yet?
No, it's not up yet. Right. We got to get
when it happens, tell me. But yeah, come on, Salty Tadpoles. As much as it pains me, because I love Bryan, I have serious beard envy. We got to help Bryan get the money. If he has to sacrifice the beard, sacrifices have to be made. So come on. So if we get it, we'll get the details for it. We'll get it up. Yeah. I mean, I don't want you to lose it's weird. It sounds almost like, sort of like, Two-Face flipping of the coin thing we make for Batman, but it's like, part of me doesn't want you to lose the beard, but part of me really wants you to lose the beard. It's for a good cause.
I want to pay my people, man. Mm-hmm. They deserve it. I can't brag on my team enough. I just really can't begin to stress to people, to filmmakers out there, how important your team is and how much your success depends on them. Mm-hmm. So I want to pay these people, and I want to do great things with this movie, and I want to inspire. And it's I'm trying to do something a little bit crazy, I guess. Like one of the things that I'm doing with Dawn Journey. I mentioned a little bit earlier. My company has values. I'm not making explicitly Christian films. Let me be clear about that. My movies are going to be as violent as Tarantino films at times. I've got gore in this movie. And by the way, it's really cool to be posting things on Facebook. Like, I just bought Carol's syrup, chocolate, cocoa powder, and red food coloring. What am I making? It's really neat to be able to post that on Facebook, and people start chiming in like, oh, that's you're making fake blood. And it's like, yes, I am. But it's just such I kind of stole that from Jason and Robert. They were posting things like that. Their little special effects grocery list. They were posting them on Facebook. And I'm like, I want to get in on that. I'm going to post about it too. Oh gosh, what was I saying, James?
The films you were talking about the films you were making. You're saying you were happy for them to have violence, but I'm assuming what you're going to say to you wanted them to have a positive message maybe within them. Yes.
So the values there are a couple things that Dawn Journey will never have in a film, and people are going to think I'm insane for doing this, but I'm trying to prove a point, and there's a reason I'm doing it. I have a very deep conviction about three things, but two for sure. Two things you will never see in a movie that Dawn Journey puts out will be sex and nudity. Profanity is a third one. That one I'm a little less. Profanity offends people, So I don't know. I'm right now. My conviction is no profanity because I still think you can make something really amazing without it. But for sure, the sex and nudity I'll never have in films, and the reason for that, I mean, even outside my personal conviction, is I've heard these stories of these women who want to be in movies, and they're literally being said, well, take your clothes off and you got a career, and that's disgusting, and I don't want that, and so I want these people to succeed without having to exploit themselves. So if you were to come to me with a project, say I want to make this project, and I've had people say no to me. I've had scripts offered, it's like, hey, what do you think of this? And I'm like, well, I need to cut out the cursing, and they're like, well, can't do it. I'm like, oh, I totally understand. Because here's the thing. I respect the sanctity of a script. When you write a screenplay, it is a deeply personal thing. This is as you said earlier, it's your baby. I don't like the idea. I mean, it's so common in this industry, you option off a screenplay or you sell a screenplay, it immediately gets rewritten. I don't like that. That's blood, sweat, and tears and hours of time somebody putting into something. I respect that, and I want to respect that's art, and I respect art. But I cannot budge on these things. And so if a person is willing to work within those three things, we're going to make your movie. And it's really ultimately for the greater good, because films are still shown in film schools today, and there are films that are still considered classics that didn't have those things in them. I mean, all the Universal monster films are considered classics. They didn't have those things in them. Casablanca didn't have those things in them. Psycho, there's there are all these movies for decades. Major film studios made these amazing films that did not have these things in them. I don't think it adds anything to the story, and I think all it does is exploit people. And it's led to nothing but exploitation. So I want to try to stop that. So when I say my company has values, those are the values you have to kind of fit within. we were talking about the Indiegogo, the ETA, going back to the ETA. Like I said, my brain goes all over the place. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all good. It's all good.
I want to have the film in the can by November. I mean, I'm like edited everything and ready to go. And I'm hoping we can raise enough money to pay for the theater premiere, the red carpet event, and the film festivals. I want to get in as many film festivals as I can. Somebody asked me last night, why the film festivals? I think because I want the film to get seen. I want all that hard work to get seen, and it's just cool. I mean, like, who wouldn't want to do film festivals? I mean, that's just really cool. So, but yeah, November. I'm going to say hopefully November, December at the latest.
Well, I will keep everything that I possibly can cross for you on that one. So I'm going to ask you a few interesting, different questions, if that's Please. All right, Bryan.
Yeah.
Before we kind of get to wrapping things up. So I want to know, because everyone asks the obvious question, which is, what's your favorite film? I want to know what film you've seen that's been the biggest letdown for you.
Oh, man. That's a great question.
Where you've gone in and you've been like, this is going to be great. And then you've been like almost asleep watching it.
That's harder to answer as a filmmaker because you get this, you get some people say becoming a filmmaker has ruined films for them. It's actually given me a deeper appreciation for it because I've never made a big Hollywood blockbuster, but I have a better understanding of the amount of work that goes into making something. So it's like my perspective's changed a little bit. The most disappointing movie, I cannot remember the name of it. And this was probably back in the mid 2000s. It was like a Viking movie or something. It was, I can't remember. And I remember the previews it had these really cool trailers and like you see the guy like crawling through mud and, And it's probably good that I can't remember the name of it because I don't want to insult. I don't want to insult that filmmaker at all, or those people. But I actually did fall asleep through that film. It just didn't click for me. It just didn't click. I'm trying to think if there's one I can think of it by name that didn't sit with me. Yes. Okay. So I love the show Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And, it's a little special thing Matt makes reference to that occasionally in his podcast. I'm like, oh, I got that Aqua Teen reference. I love that show. And when they were doing the movie film for theaters, Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie film for theaters, I was so excited to go see this. And I actually went and saw that and Hot Fuzz in the same day. I was so incredibly disappointed by that movie. It just wasn't good. It was bad. It just wasn't as I love Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I just was disappointed by it. I couldn't tell you why in particular. I think the story wasn't paced well, and I don't think it's a property that translates well into a feature length something. I mean, you spent X number of years, I think 5 years at that point, watching these little 13-minute shorts essentially, and then to suddenly turn into like an hour and a half movie. I just don't think it translated well. So I would actually say the biggest movie disappointment, unfortunately, was the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie.
For me, it was a film called Mutant Chronicles, which it's quite a long time ago now, but I went into it with other people who wanted to see it. I didn't really know anything about it, and I literally was close to sleep.
Wow.
It just did not work for me. Whereas the others came out and they were like, yeah, that was great. And I'm like, really? Did we see the same film? But my next question is probably going to be a bit trickier, which is, if you could have made any film, anything at all in the history of previous films, what would you like to have put your stamp on to be able to make? So it could be a pre-existing film, or it could be any sort of type of film you want to make, which I know is tricky because you're obviously making a film at the moment.
I have one that exists and one that doesn't. I'll give you two answers to that. One film is Dawn of the Dead. The original Night Civic, Dawn of the Dead, in any capacity. If I could have been a part of that film, I've had a really unique opportunity. I saw this movie for the first time like 23 years ago. Okay. And to this day, it's my favorite film. I mean, I own multiple versions of it, like releases of it, I love that movie, and it has been really crazy to me. I hear people criticize social media. I love Facebook because it's such a great networking tool. It is what you make of it. And I've been able to connect with people through social media that I never in my wildest dreams thought I would talk to. Not only did I connect with Scott Reiniger, I interviewed the guy, And I got to tell him the story about how that movie changed my life. And, you know, I mean, Dawn of the Dead had such an influence on me that, like, Dawn Journey Productions, it's called Dawn Journey Productions because there was a journey I had to take to see the movie. And I could tell you that story at some point if you want me to. And actually, I have it right here. So I watched a documentary about Dawn of the Dead, and I remember they were talking about someone named Jeannie Jeffries. And, you know, so she did makeup effects with Tom Savini on Night Riders, on Dawn of the Dead. You know, she's had a very amazing career, and never imagined I'd ever, you know, connect with Jeannie Jeffries on any stretch. And I actually found Jeannie Jeffries on Facebook, and she's a Facebook friend, and I've had several conversations with her, and she's one of the sweetest, kindest, nicest human beings you'll ever meet. And she actually wrote a book. She loves animals. This woman is awesome. And she wrote a book about a raccoon she had. It's called Indie Bear. And it's about a raccoon that she had. I consider her a friend. I mean, I can call Jeannie Jeffries a friend. Mike Ankus is a producer on Blood Repentance. He's a phenomenal filmmaker, really gifted filmmaker. But he's also my friend. I had him on I ran across Mike on Facebook through the comments. Actually, he had commented on something. I didn't know who Mike was. And then there was a Day of the Dead group that I follow, and he was talking about his experiences being a zombie on Day of the Dead. I said, holy smokes, I need to get this guy on my podcast and talk to him. And so I reached out to him. He accepted my friend request, and he's just become a friend. And Mike, when I tell you that I have been blessed by so many people, I'm not kidding when I say that. Mike is so kind and so wonderful. I was in need of equipment, and this man literally, he's not only a producer on my project, he sent me a box in the mail. It had a camera, 4 lenses, a Tascam for sound, bags, cleaning cloths, batteries, chargers. Oh goodness, he sent me so much stuff, and I'm going to leave something out. So I texted him. And I said, you know, Mike, I got the box. Thank you so much. This is going to help us tremendously, because now I'm not shooting on my iPhone, because I was ready to shoot with my iPhone. I actually have it here too. So this right here is a 1.33 anamorphic lens for the iPhone, and it's made to go. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
It's made to be used in conjunction with what's called a Beast Cage. There's a company called Beast Grip out there, and they make a product called Beast Grip, and it's like a universal mount for your phone, that you can actually mount your phone to a tripod. It's got, you know, built-in cold shoe mount, so you can put a mic on there. And here's the Beast Grip, and this is where the lenses go right here. And these are interchangeable, so you can actually use like real camera lenses with this. So I was ready to shoot with my phone, you know, and which you can make something amazing. If you get Filmic Pro on your phone, you could shoot 24 frames per second, 48 shutter speed. You can make a cinematic looking film. But you know, when you're shooting with your personal phone, I mean, you have space image. So I was going to constantly have to dump footage onto my Mac, and it was going to be a pain. So Mike sent me all this equipment. I texted him, like, thank you so much. This is going to help me tremendously. 2 minutes later, he calls me, and he's got his wife with him. And he's like, hey, man, got Brenda here with me. And he said, you might want to make us a producer on this couple of your projects. So I just want you to know, like, we're giving that to you. This man, out of the kindness of his heart, and because he loves film so much and wants to see people make film so much, he gave me all this equipment, like thousands of dollars of equipment. He just gave it to me. And
that's a good guy.
What do you even say to that, man?
Well, what can you say? I mean,
yeah,
it's just the lovely proof that there are nice people in this world.
Yeah,
it is the lovely proof of it, because I can be far too cynical, I think, sometimes. The conversation you and I have had today has been life affirming for that, on your things that you've told me for yourself, to just think, yeah, there are still some.
I'm so glad to hear that, man. There are a lot of people out there who want to help, and they don't be afraid to ask for help. Be careful who you ask for help. I'll say that, but don't be afraid to ask for help. And I promise you that there are people out there who want to make a movie just as badly as you do, and they'll stand right next to you. And that's really the key to success, man, is just being able to connect with people. The people are what are going to make your movie. The people are going to, you're talking about the fans. They're what make you successful, because without other people, we truly are, we have an intrinsic value, but when it comes to filmmaking, when it comes to succeeding in this industry, whatever that is exactly, that ultimately is a result of other people, no matter how talented you are.
Well, I cannot think of a better point to end on that, apart from the wonderful comment made there. I would say, Bryan, just tell us very quickly. We will post it up with some other stuff for other information, but where can people get in contact with you? Where are they best looking?
The number one place to find me is Facebook. I was told recently that I every time I mention my Facebook, I joke about this because it's pretty funny, actually, and it's true. I was told recently by someone that I look like a young Francis Ford Coppola. So I did a side-by-side, and it's dead on. Like, I look like a young Francis. Down to my glasses. So look for a guy with a big beard sitting behind a camera very intently. So Facebook, Bryan Parkerson is my full name. You can find me on Facebook. You know, if you do send me a random message, if you don't mind, in your initial message, please if you say hello, just like hello, how are you? Every scam message I get starts out that way, so I'm less inclined to even respond to you. So if you do send me a message, please feel free to reach out to me. Let me know, hey, I heard you on the podcast. You know, really want to connect with you, or, you know, I have a question about filmmaking. Mention what it is you need early on, so I know that you're not a scammer. I'd appreciate that, because you get a lot of scam messages from people. So I'm really active on Facebook. I do have a Twitter account. It's at BP4Christ. I'm on Twitter in spurts. Like, every now and then I get like the Twitter bug, and I'll get on there for about a month, and I'll, you know, go at it hardcore, and then I kind of just fall away from it. My Dawn Journey Productions, we do have a Twitter page. We have Instagram, which is severely lacking right now. I need to step it up and get on the Instagram and do some stuff. We also have a Facebook page, Dawn Journey Productions. There is a Blood Repentance Facebook group. I'll have to make sure to get you on that, James, if you're not. Yeah, I'm always posting stuff all the time there. But Facebook, if you want to connect with me one-to-one, Facebook is where to find me for sure.
Thank you so much for this, for doing this with me, Bryan. And
man, it's a privilege. I'm so thrilled.
All I'm going to say is this, that for people who've listened to this, you'll notice that I don't speak much, and normally I'm gabby. This is how good you are, Bryan, that you've had me on just the edge of my seat listening. It's been brilliant, and I'm hoping we can have you on again once you've got Blood Repentance done. Anything else you want to talk about, I would love to have you on again. So, without further ado, I can never remember which one it is. I would say we've been talking of celluloid codswallop for this episode. So, as ever, I've been James. This has been Bryan. Don't have a hat, but I take it off and extend a massive thanks to you, Bryan. Thank you so much.
It's been an honor, man. It's been a privilege.